everyone. Um, my name is Hind. I'm from Lebanon. I'm the founder of Instabeat. And actually, what I'm going to talk about is my experience running a startup based in Beirut. If you look at all of the articles about the top 500 cities for building a tech startup, you probably will find our neighbor Israel, but you will not find Beirut. And I'm guessing you will not find Athens as well. So I'm hoping that all of the struggles I went through can give you some inspiration to overcome the struggles that you probably will face in the Greek ecosystem. And so I have been swimming for as far as I can remember. My parents threw me in a pool when I was 5 years old, and I was just swept away by the magic of the water, because when you're in the water, you're completely disconnected from the outside world, and it makes you think, and it's just so magical. And so I've taken swimming very seriously in my life, not enough to want to be a professional swimmer, but enough to want to compete and to want to be of every single varsity team in my school and in my university. And so when I got to AUB, which is the American University of Beirut, I was part of the swimming varsity team, and I was studying mechanical engineering at the same time. And I started understanding a bit more the trainings that our coach used to give us. And I realized he was giving us all of our workouts based on heart rate. And we were not really measuring our heart rate in the pool. So what we were doing is stopping after each set and measuring our pulse manually. And I found this really stupid because, first of all, as an athlete, your heart rate recovers really fast. So by the time I actually have my heart rate value, it's significantly lower than what it was when I was swimming. And second of all, with this piece of information, all I can think is, okay, my heart rate is now 120. I should have been swimming faster. Okay, next time I will swim faster. And so it really did not benefit anything in our workout. So I started looking around for devices that will help me monitor my training in the pool. And I was really astonished that I could not find anything that was designed for swimmers. Everything in the market was watches that were combined with chest belts, and those were designed for runners and bikers. And then they make them waterproof, and they call them devices for swimmers. But for any of you who swims, you probably understand that you do not wear a watch while you swim, especially when you're a competitive swimmer. And second of all, even if I did wear a watch, there's no way I'm going to bend my arm during the motion, look at the reading, say, oh, okay, cool, and then continue. So it was in no way practical to wear a watch. And really made me think, like, this is such an obvious need for swimmers, but there's nothing out there in the market. And so I read this equation because I like it, mechanical engineer plus swimmer. I had the idea that we need to create a product that will help swimmers monitor their workouts seamlessly. And so I was in my 4th year of engineering, and I was obviously not going to do something about this idea until I heard about this competition called Stars of Science. So Stars of Science is kind of like the Arab version of American Inventor. And so they select 16 participants out of the 22 pan-Arab countries. So there were 7,000 applicants in my year, and they selected 16. I was the only one from Lebanon. And they take you to Qatar, and they literally lock you in a lab, and they film everything. And I made a joke earlier that at first I was so cautious about what I was saying on the mic and on the camera. And during the last period of the competition, I was saying so much crap. They had to cut everything I was saying. But I'm going to show you a video of Stars of Science. It's in Arabic, so I'm muted, but I'll explain to you what's happening. So there are different stages in the competition. First is proof of concept, then it's engineering, then it's design, then it's business and marketing. So the first part was proof of concept. It was actually proving that I was able to design a sensor that wanted to measure the heart rate from the pulse, from the temporal artery. And this was important because I wanted to get rid of the chest belt that the watch had, and I wanted to integrate it into the swimming goggles so swimmers would not have to wear an external accessory. And so the first part was designing a sensor and hooking it up to a computer. And this is the setup you see. So it's a sensor connected to a data acquisition and a computer. And it proved that the sensor actually worked, so I was able to get a reliable measurement. And the next step was actually take the data acquisition and the laptop and turn them into a small board. Because as you know, swimmers do not want to wear something huge on their heads, like a diving mask. And so it was a very big challenge in only 3 weeks to be able to take all of the systems and trim it down into a small circuit. So here, it was part of the lab. I was telling him, I'm never going to make it on time. My hair looked super messy. I was sleepless. But then I went to the Texas A&M University in Qatar, and we actually ended up designing the board, and this is how the board looked like, and I just scotched it onto goggles, and this is what I presented to the jury for the engineering phase. And so next step was actually going through the design. So somehow making this design waterproof and being able to swim with it. So we had designers that came from Holland to help us with the design, and we 3D printed a case that would actually fit the circuit. And so it was funny because during the presentation, I used to say, look at the sleek design. I actually knew it was so big and bulky, and it weighed 170 grams. But it was the proof that, yes, you can take a system and you can put it on swimming goggles. And this was, like the first cell phone, this was the first monitor adapted for swimming. So it was really an unbelievable experience for me to be able to build the product that I've been dreaming about for so long. And then the business and marketing plan went well, and I ended up winning the third prize at the competition. And so the third prize when you're in Qatar means you get $100,000 in cash, and you have a patent application in the Arab world and in the US. And with all of that, it was not enough to convince me to start a company. And so right after I graduated, I took a job at a very big design firm in Lebanon, and I was utterly unhappy. And the biggest reason was not because of the company or the people there. It was because I learned from the competition that any idea I had in mind, I could actually make. It did not require a big company or a big corporation to make it something real. I was able to do it with the right resources and the right mindset. And so for a year, it was really torture to get up every day and design air conditioning system that for a big commercial center in Saudi Arabia that I couldn't care less about, and they was never going to visit probably. And so after a year, I decided to quit my job, and I decided that I was going to do this, and I'm going to turn what was called Butterfly then, Instabeat today, into a product that swimmers other than me are going to wear. And so the first step was recruiting people who were more talented than I was at engineering and design. So I built the first prototype. It worked fine. It looked super big. So now it was about making it smaller, making it friendly. And this was the very big first hurdle. And so Lebanon's economy is entirely based on services. So you would find experts in the food and beverage industry, you will find experts in the hospitality industry, but you will not find experts in electronics design, in industrial design, in manufacturing. And so for the first 8 months, I was hiring, firing. And another challenge I faced was that I was a really young girl. I was 22 at that time. And I was hiring, obviously, people that were older than me because I wanted people that were experienced. And in the Arab culture, it's not very acceptable to have a younger girl as a boss. And so I was really frustrated after 8 months, and I decided that I needed to start looking in places I haven't looked before. And this is when I realized that I needed to leverage the power of the internet. I'm in Beirut, yes, but I have internet and I have Skype, and I was going to hire people that are outside of Beirut. And so I hired designers in Lebanon. I hired a quality control engineer in Lebanon and a community manager in Lebanon. But we have 2 engineers, electronics and firmware in the US, and we have 4 web developers in Ukraine. And then the second step, as you heard, having a board and having advisors and mentors are a super important part of the journey. And obviously, I couldn't find people who understood training monitors, who understood wearables, who understood consumer electronics in Lebanon. So again, I had to leverage the people I knew in Lebanon to introduce me to people outside of Lebanon. And these people became really the solid foundation of the company. And whenever I had any question about manufacturing or how to deal with a manufacturing contract or how to hire people, how to build a company culture in such a small company, I would go to these advisors. And for the prototyping, it was very interesting because we also could not find 3D printers or PCB manufacturers or anything you would need as a hardware startup. And so we used online tools based in France because it's close to us and because shipping times are faster. And so really, we were operating online. Everyone was like, we had 2 people in the same room at most, and we were on Skype all the time. And somehow, we made it work. So in 2010, it's a prototype from Stars of Science that you see. It was a big, bulky module that was 170 grams. In 2011, that was the first big iteration of the product. And so It was a smaller module, but still on both sides. And in 2013, we were able to shrink the size by 40%, and now the module weighs 40 grams, and it's on one side only, and it has a visual display that shows the heart rate color while you're swimming. So it's blue, green, or red, and it measures your heart rate, and the color changes according to your heart rate while you're swimming, so you're able to get real-time feedback. And while we were transitioning from the 2011 prototype to the 2013 prototype, the whole wave of wearables happened, so Fitbit and all of the pedometers and everything, and we realized we cannot be just the heart rate monitor. And so we added, of course, all of the motion sensors, and today we're able to measure calories, laps, distance, speed, stroke, and everything is stored and sent to an online dashboard. So really, the prototyping phase was really, really long. The online setup did not make it any easier, but it did make it possible. And this is, I think, something that's replicable for anyone that's outside of Silicon Valley, where you can find all the talent in the world. And so we got our final shape of the prototype, and next step was manufacturing. And that was the most challenging and awful period of my life, just because manufacturing is so difficult, especially when you don't have experts around you. So I think the biggest advice I learned is talk to so many manufacturing experts before you actually pick your manufacturer. And second of all is know what to look for in a manufacturer. So I first was looking for people who manufactured waterproof devices, but a few months down the line, I realized that this was not what I needed. I needed people who produced flexible technologies, because our device is flexible and adapts to different head shapes. And this is, I think, the biggest lesson I learned, is know what variables you're looking for and ask the right questions. And as a first-time entrepreneur that's manufacturing for the first time, you're probably not going to be knowing these questions. In the second picture, I show all of the challenges we had. Like, we had so many plastics sticking out, and even picking the color. We had like 15 samples to pick the color. I never thought picking a color would be so difficult. So it's not an easy process, and it requires a lot of patience and perseverance. But with the right experts on board, you know you're going to get a good, reliable product. So obviously, all of this would not have been possible with money in our bank account. When I got out of Stars of Science, I got a call from an investor in Lebanon saying, hey, Hind, we want to invest in your company. And I replied, I don't have a company. What are you talking about? So the idea of like taking your product and building a company around it was just so foreign to me. But then I realized that I had to take that leap, and when I started to hire people, I actually took investment from this company, and we were able to sustain it for 2 years. And we iterated the prototype and changed the business plan so much, and this small amount of money actually helped us go through these different stages. And now looking back, I realize how little I knew about my company and about my product when I took that money, but it actually helped us learn a lot. And in 2013, when we got to our final product before manufacturing, I needed to raise money again to start paying the manufacturers. And I had a very big challenge. The challenge was that I had an idea that was very cool, but I didn't have customers that were actually using it, because we were 3D printing the prototype, but it was not actually waterproof, and it couldn't be used by people in the pool. And so this is when I decided to go for crowdfunding. And as Marina said, it's amazing to get people to prepay for your idea and your product, and so that's what we did. I'm not going to show you the video because we're running out of time, but we launched a crowdfunding on Indiegogo. I think I had like maybe $500 in the bank when we launched, so I did not spend anything on marketing, but instead we looked out for swimmers. So the first swimmers loved our idea. They started sharing it on their network, and then it went viral somehow in the swimming community, and we were able to get orders from 53 countries with literally no marketing spend, and it was enough money for us, first of all, to down pay the manufacturer, and second of all, to raise our second round of investment, which was much larger. And so for us, it was a great learning experience, because first, we were able to prove demand. Second of all, we were able to start talking to our customers, and I realized that we hadn't been talking enough to our customers. It's only when I got money from them that I really started engaging in a discussion. And this is something I take away, that you always need to talk more to people and more to your customers even before you have a final product. And we changed the product so much based on what the people from the crowdfunding campaign have been asking us. So I'm very happy to say that months ago we started shipping the product from the crowdfunding campaign. It's been so much fun. It's been very scary to get people to actually use the device without me supervising them, but we've had amazing feedback so far, so people really love the product, and I should say that they love the product because it's what they were asking for, so we've been really good at listening what they want, and we've been working on features that we thought were not that important, but turned out to be super important for our users. So a really simple example, like with Instabeat, you can sync your data in less than a second, and actually this is the feature that our users love the most. And we did not design this on purpose. It just happened that our developer is really good. But I realized that all of these Garmin and Polar watches that are our competitors, you need to like plug a USB, and it takes you like a few minutes to sync, and it's really long and tedious. And so even the smallest design features can make the user experience so much better, and this is something we've learned as we started shipping. Second thing we learned is that the device is just a commodity, and we've been discussing this all day, but people had very little to say about the device itself and so much to say about the dashboard and analytics behind it. And this is where I think the company today should be focusing, is getting the analytics out and having useful recommendations for people, so not just real-time feedback, but showing how you progress over time, showing how you compare to your peers, and giving recommendations on how you can become a better swimmer. And so the other picture I show is people sending us selfies. I find this really funny. I don't like selfies personally, but I like when customers send us selfies. And I realized that this has been such a powerful tool to engage the community, and it's really taken swimming to a different level where people now are connecting on Twitter, they're connecting on our platform, and they're able to share their workout stats. And this has not been possible before. And this is something, again, that I learned later, that I should have given more importance. That community in your product is so important. It's as important as the hardware itself. And so, very quick lessons that I learned. Inspiration comes from your everyday routine. It does not have to be like a new spaceship. It can be the smallest thing that you're removing friction out of. Sometimes you know that you have no idea what you're doing, but you just need to trust your gut and swim with the flow. So this is what I did when I decided to quit my job. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I decided that I was going to iterate the prototype and see where it leads me. One thing I also learned is that I did raise investment as soon as I got out of the competition, but today I wish that I had waited a little bit more, because the pitch I gave them 3 years ago is completely different than the pitch that I give today. And it's just that if I had more time to iterate without money and pressure from investors, it would have been very beneficial for us and for the team. You're based in Athens, I'm based in Beirut, so almost nothing is available around us, so you need to think outside of your box, outside of your geography, outside of your network. Leverage network you have around you in order to reach outside. And I'm guessing the Greek community is a bit like the Arab community. Everyone knows everyone, and so you probably will get to the person you want to get to by starting from where you're at. Get advisors that are expert in your field. I'm just repeating what people have said before me. And passion and perseverance are key to this journey. So I got to a point where I hated swimming because swimming felt like work. But I think deep down it's just a passion for swimming and actually wanting to make swimming a more connected sport, and wanting actually swimmers to enjoy and improve their performance was such a big driver. And I think as a founder you can really communicate this passion you have, and this is what will make everyone in your company persevere in very difficult times. So last thing, I'm just going to show you Instabeat. So it's not turned on, but this is Instabeat, and it mounts on swimming goggles, and you wear it. You look like an alien, but you know you're cool. So yeah, this is my story, and I'll be happy to talk to anyone here. There are much more lessons I learned, but in this short time, this is what I have to say. Thank you, everyone.